Leopard geckos are probably the most loved lizard you can have, maybe the easiest you can keep. What if I told you there was some reasons they kinda suck and there's better reptiles you'd probably want instead? It's true, I love leopard geckos. I've had hundreds of them over the years, and now I just think that maybe they're not as cool as they used to be. Leopard geckos are great, okay? They're fantastic, but they also kind of suck. That's the point of the video. I didn't clickbait you. There are 3 good reasons, and I'm gonna give you 3 maybe better options for you if you want a leopard gecko that's not actually a leopard gecko, like a very similar animal is what I'm trying to say. Let's get started with the first reason that leopard geckos kind of suck, and that's just their enclosures are boring and kind of suck. And the reason that actually matters a lot is simply because if you have an animal, most of the time it's gonna be spent in the enclosure. I'm not sure if you're new to reptiles or not, but I can promise you for most people, most of the time for most animals, you're gonna spend way more time looking at the enclosure than actually interacting with the animal in your hands. That's why it's so important. So you want an enclosure that's fun to look at. The most interaction that you're going to get with the animal is looking at the animal in the enclosure. So if the animal doesn't like the enclosure and doesn't move around, boring for you. If you don't like the way the enclosure looks and it looks like a box of dirt in your house and it's boring to look at and you don't like it and it's an eyesore, not good for you. And the problem with leopard geckos is you can't have these beautiful tropical setups like you see here. This is a piece of art. And that's because these animals don't live in enclosures like that. And this is of course personal taste, but I think most of the time when you see this eye-opening, eye-catching, stunning enclosure that looks like an ecosystem, it's almost always tropical. But with that said, I do think there's a great way that you could make an enclosure look beautiful for these animals that aren't even arid. That's the other thing, which we're gonna get to it as a big, I'm gonna be on my soapbox at number 3. Get ready, it's gonna be wild. But these animals, they can actually live in an enclosure with plants, and most people don't set them up that way, so it looks boring. And the reason is, most people in the past, up until recently, or even now, set them up in a 20-gallon enclosure with sand, and then that's basically it. This is not the way that you're supposed to have these look. What you want is you want an enclosure that has lots of stuff for the animal to do, which is gonna make your eyes keep moving, gonna be fun for you, especially if you add a cleanup crew. That rhymed, I'm a poet or a rapper maybe, rippity rapper. Because then you're gonna see beetles walking around or isopods or whatever, and then your animal will come out and be walking around and interacting with the enclosure. This is what the enclosure that I have looked like a few years ago. And I'll be honest, it did kind of die and look terrible because I didn't keep up with it enough, and you do have to do a little bit of maintenance in order to make these enclosures continue to look beautiful. So I redid it, and now it looks like this. Now, keep in mind, this is about 3 months after I set it up, and some of the plants are withering, and this is a learning experience for me too, because some of these plants I've never tried before, so I'm gonna have to replant or learn how to take better care of them. But either way, this looks a heck of a lot better than this does. One thing that doesn't suck about leopard geckos is they're so easy to find. You can find them at expos or your local reptile shop, or my new favorite way to find animals, Palm Street. Palm Street is freaking awesome. I love this app. This is an app where you can go and you bid on animals like a live auction, but the person auctioning them off likely produced them, or if not, knows a lot about these animals and is in love with that species. So you can ask questions in real time to a person who actually is holding that animal in their hand. Hey, turn the animal around. I want to see the marking on its back. Do you have any other animals? And they're going to answer you right away.
Adam, tell me what you want me to pull out, and then I'll pull out that specific animal.
Plus, it's a real community. We all get to know each other. Everyone's very friendly. There's no bots and there is no scammers. Palm Street is a true community. I did a live stream on Palm Street a few weeks ago. What a fun, almost magical time getting to know the community and talking about animals. So if you're looking for a leopard gecko or one of the animals we're going to talk about at the end of this video, Palm Street, in my opinion, is the best way to do it. Markets are great, but Palm Street is fun. So hit the link below and see what I'm up to on my new favorite app. The second reason leopard geckos kind of suck is because they have no personality. Now, by no personality, I mean that they kind of seem like dolts, you know, like they're a little bit boring in the way that they act and interact with you. Their personality feels like the way this dog looks like. Now, of course, Russ is not boring. Russ is actually really fun, but you get what I'm trying to say here. With that dog, I have an animal that can be like a couch potato and literally do nothing for hours at a time, or be super fun and play with me and active and run and bark and the whole thing. Leopard geckos, you can get some that are more active than others and some that are more skittish than others, but they have like a one-track thought process or personality. Their personality doesn't really vary much at all. For example, Littlefoot here, I mean, if I move her, she'll do the clicking thing. Leopard geckos do click, which is kind of hilarious and adorable, but they don't really have a personality in terms of like, isn't part of the fun of a new animal taming that animal? If you get a new puppy, it's like a land shark and you're trying to like make the animal not bite the heck out of everything that's moving. Training the dog is the fun part, or a horse, breaking a horse. I mean, I'm not a cowboy, but you know what I'm trying to say, right? Even with snakes, some of the fun about having a snake is maybe it's a little spicy out of the box and then you have to tame that animal down. Leopard geckos aren't really like that. I mean, if you breed leopard geckos and you get some out of the egg, then yes, they can come out pretty spicy and they'll scream at you. But I mean, it's like it's an animal that's this big. So you don't have to worry about it actually not hurting you, but like, it's not as fun as a snake, let's say, that you don't want to get bit by and is trying to bite you because it's scared and nervous and hasn't realized yet that you're just chill and totally fine. I have done a whole video right here about how to tame down animals if you want to watch. But this is kind of good too, because if you're the type of person who wants an animal that takes no work to tame down and just right out of the box, or the egg as it were, is just totally chill and fine and cool, and will just hang out like this and barely move around and just hang it on your shoulder as you're doing your schoolwork or work or editing a video or watching a movie. This is a great animal for you. Almost all of them are kind of like this. I can touch her head, touch her face and tail area, and she's fine. She's not freaking out. She's not trying to move away from me. She's trying to move away from the light. I got this big key light right here. They don't really like that. So she's hiding in the shadow behind my head. But if I had a normal room that didn't have a huge light on my face, she would probably not move at all. She would just chill and sit there, kind of like Diamond does for most of the videos. Diamond's my bearded dragon who's lazy, by the way, if you haven't watched any other videos. So this is a personality thing. Do you want an animal you have to tame down? If so, don't get one of these. Do you want an animal that's gonna be chill right out of the box, or right, when you get the animal is what I'm trying to say, then this is kind of the perfect animal to get. Number 3, this is the one where there might be some pushback, but I feel very strongly about this. With leopard geckos, you are boxed in as a keeper. Be careful what you do on social media because there's a double-edged sword here. And that sword is we have so much information and we have for so long. The problem is all of that information, or most of that information, has come from an echo chamber and is the same thing being told over and over and over, and nobody bothers to ask, hey, when I watch a care guide or read one, or when the guy at the pet store or whoever tells me how to keep the animal, where did they get the information? And where did that person and that person and that person, like, there's no chain. Where did we get the information in the first place? Now, with most animals, what we do was we study the animal in the wild and figure out what the temperature and humidity and their social behaviors are. But because leopard geckos have been in captivity for so long, it's been so long since we've set the standard, and I think the standard needs to change. What we've done is we've trained people, everybody, the masses, to take care of leopard geckos in the most sterile, boring, risk-adverse way. Now, I'll be honest, keeping things in the most boring and risk-adverse way is the best way for most people. However, if you want to go and talk to people in India or Pakistan or Iraq or places where they actually find these things, I had a conversation with a gentleman from Pakistan, and where he was from in his city, or his town, I guess it is, he would say, when you're doing renovations on some of these floors in these really old homes that don't have a basement or really any sort of structure underneath, you're ripping up floorboards and you're finding dozens of these geckos all together. There's a paper by a guy with a real education and knows what he's doing, Khan, from 2009, and when he went to their native range to study, what did he find? He found that these animals are always together, and they're together in very cramped little spaces, these walls that have half decayed or at least come apart, so the bricks have created crevices and tunnels with no exit other than the entrance, which means that there's tons and tons of these geckos all together, and there's only one way to get in and one way to get out. That says to me, this whole thing about us saying, oh, they're territorial and solitary creatures, like, they're not. They're absolutely not. And before the days of the big brand pet stores making tons of money selling one individual enclosure for one individual gecko and giving you a leaflet that says, hey, keep them exactly like this in our enclosure, and if it's not in our enclosure, then it's gonna spontaneously combust. But do you know how all of those geckos got to those pet stores where you bought them in 2005 or before that, or maybe even a little bit after that? Guys like Ron Tremper, who I am totally respect, by the way, so this is not a dig at all. But how did he keep leopard geckos? He kept them in a horse trough. 100 females to 1 male. This is where your leopard geckos came from. And when you listen to people talk about how they used to breed animals, and by the way, still do breed like this, except for it's not YouTubers who are doing it, it's the people who supply the big name pet stores who sell you those leopard geckos. What do they say? Do they say that they've got all these fights and dead animals? No, they're fine. That's why they continue to do it year after year after year. So where did we come up with, well, there must be this enclosure size for this many geckos, which is always 1, by the way, and this substrate. I mean, we're still bickering over loose substrate. Yes, they need loose substrate. No, they're not from deserts. It shouldn't be sand. They're from places that look like this instead. And I'm telling you, go to an exotic vet, a real exotic vet that sees lots and lots of actual exotic animals, not a dog and cat vet that sees 1 leopard gecko every other month. Ask them how many times you've ever seen an impacted leopard gecko, an adult leopard gecko, die of impaction. The answer is gonna be 0. Now I know you're gonna write to me, well, my brother's dog's cousin's uncle who was chased by a water moccasin in 1986, he was a vet and he saw it. Like, no, he didn't. No, he didn't. So the point is, we're boxed in as keepers. We can't do anything new at all without being blasted on the internet. And that's the problem, is even when you bring up studies, people who actually live or go to these places, Pakistan and India mostly, and do studies on the animals, and then you try to keep them like they are in the wild, then we're told that you're doing it wrong and you're an abuser and how dare you do this to your animals. Meanwhile, if you have something come in like a scorpion gecko, for example, or a stenodactylus come in, for example, which is new to the hobby, and we're not blasted with information from 1980 and 1990, we say, yeah, you keep them together. Obviously, they're found like that in the wild. Why wouldn't we do that in captivity? And everybody's cool with it. Everyone, yeah, of course you keep stenos together. I know that because this guy on YouTube told me so. You know where the guy on YouTube got it from? A source recently, because that's what we brought in recently. If leopard geckos were brought in 2015, instead of getting popular in the 1980s and 90s, I promise you we'd be keeping them in colonies. I promise you. We're still selling those mats, those disgusting mats for leopard geckos that you should never ever use. We're still telling you that a loose substrate is bad for leopard geckos, and all of this information is wrong. But the problem is we're so boxed in because that is what we were told that we're going to do, because every big brand pet store since the beginning of time has told you to keep it this way, and then every YouTuber has told you all the way down the line, so there's no real information of where they're actually from. So I'm not saying rewrite the book and throw caution to the wind. I mean, keep things in a way that you know they're going to be okay, but if you learn new information, I don't think we should criticize or try to full-on cancel creators or other people on the internet who just have an Instagram or TikTok or whatever for doing something differently than you've seen or been told to do before. And I love that in this industry, we're actually changing. We're finally realizing that not every chameleon needs a full screen cage. There's people out there doing great, fantastic work, and hopefully I can contribute to that with leopard geckos. Leopard gecko care guide right here. This is something that I put lots and lots of work into, lots of effort, spoke to people in the field and people who have been breeding leopard geckos for literal decades. So 3 options that might be better for you. 1, collared lizards. Collared lizards move around a whole bunch. They jump from place to place. They are freaking amazing animals. I love them. You can give them really big enclosures and they're going to use all of them, even though they're about the size of a leopard gecko. They're pretty darn small. And you can cohab them, and no one's going to get on your case about cohabbing them because they're a new enough species that we haven't been indoctrinated to keep them alone, even though that's not how they live in the wild. They like to live together. Now, of course, as a blanket statement, always, always, always keep animals together if you know what you're doing, and that's for another video. So again, I'm telling you right now, don't keep things together until you've researched how to do it. Don't keep males together, for example, for basically all species. Except for our second option, Stenodactylus. Stenodactylus males can actually be kept together. Now, of course, it doesn't matter what you keep together. This is turning into a cohab video, which is I'm not trying to. I've done those before. There's more instruction there if you're really looking into this. But Stenodactylus are smaller than leopard geckos. You can keep a lot of them together because they are so small and they get along really, really well. They have social structures where males can live with males and they don't become super territorial. And if you want to give them a big enclosure, then you could have, you know, quite a few of them in there. Or if you have something like a 20-gallon long enclosure, you could have 3 or 4 of them in there. I think these are a great option because they're becoming more available captive bred. I love them. They're great. They're super cute, and plus they're super fun to photograph. I mean, like, these shots actually look pretty cool. I'm pretty proud of these. Number 2, Schneider skinks. I haven't talked about them in a while, and the reason is Schneider skinks, you can't really find them captive bred. They're almost always going to be wild caught, but with that said, if you can find them, say, secondhand, so you're not creating need for more to be brought in, I mean, they've already been purchased and you're not creating demand, buying them at a store who's then going to need to replenish their stock, I think they're a fantastic animal. I wish that we could figure out how to breed them in captivity, but the point is, the reason they're great, they're about the same size as a leopard gecko. It's harder to remove their tail. I mean, don't rip them off or anything, but they're reluctant to drop them. You can keep them in social structures and no one's going to scream at you. You can keep them on loose substrate, and that's the way that they want to be kept because they're a burrowing species, so there's really no other way to keep them. They like it really warm. They are more of an arid species, so if you want something that is more truly arid, although they're still not like a desert species, this would be an animal for you. And they're super placid. They're easy to handle. They're really, really fun. I love Schneider skinks, and I'm going to do more videos about them. I know you guys got bored of them for a while, but they're coming back. With that said, let me know in the comment section below what you think about leopard geckos and what might be better options for most people. As always, thanks for hitting like and subscribe. If you don't mind hitting that bell notification, really appreciate it, because we do videos every Monday and Thursday. That means I'll see you in the next one.